What's going on, guys? It's Byron, not Brian here. It is late May in Central Ohio, and in front of me is my dream garden. I started building this in February in my heated garage, and it is 1,147 square feet. It has 29 individual beds. It's got water to all of those beds, plumbed. It's got electricity. It's got a sound system. It's got lights, and it even has a security system of sorts to keep the critters out, and raccoons and anything else that may want to get in to my big beautiful garden here. So come with me. I'm going to show you how I designed it, how I built it, all the different components, and you too can have a garden just like this with a little bit of time and a little bit of cash. Now, this isn't my first raised garden. This is my first raised garden. I built this a couple of years ago, and I learned a lot building it. There were a lot of issues that I didn't foresee. For example, moles coming up through the beds and destroying my crops. The fence was not high enough, and I had deer jumping the fence. I think it's about 6 feet tall. I had raccoons climbing the fence and coming in, and I had things digging underneath, from squirrels to chipmunks, all kinds of things. So I took what I didn't like and what I learned with this garden, and I made this one. The main reason I built this first garden where it's at is because the ground is relatively flat. As you can see, it's pretty flat. That changes pretty quickly though. We are at the top of a ravine. It's kind of hard to see, but down there where those yellow flowers are, that's a road down there, and it drops off pretty quickly and pretty drastically. The only other really flat area I have in my 2 acres was over my septic field, and that's not an option to build a garden. So this was the next best choice, I guess, for me. Now, originally, I wanted the top of the garden to be completely level all the way across. And as you can see, it is not. And that is because of the elevation change. It was a lot more drastic than I was expecting, and so I had to accommodate that as I built the garden in place. And I will talk about that more here in a minute when I talk about the exterior walls. So that was the biggest design challenge, I think, of this entire garden, was working with the space that I had to put it in. So I'm going to start with the inner beds of the garden. There are 8, and when I decided that I wanted to build a new garden back in February, it was really cold here in Central Ohio. So I cleared out my garage, which is heated, and I started building these inside my garage one by one, and as I finished them, I moved them out to my driveway, and so on and so forth until all 8 were complete. And then with some help, some friends, we moved them from my front yard to my backyard in place where they are now. One of the things with these new beds that I wanted to address that my old garden I didn't necessarily like was bed height. In my old garden, the beds are, I think, 18 inches tall, something like that. These beds are significantly taller, and that's by design. I want this garden to last me for the rest of my life, and one of the big challenges as you get older is bending over. And so I wanted taller beds that you could sit on and harvest your crops, reach over and plant things, and not necessarily be hard on your back. In terms of materials, in my old garden, I made it with untreated pine. And it's about, like I said, 2 years old, and it's already starting to show signs of decay. And with this garden, being that I wanted it to last as long as possible, the rest of my life, if at all possible, I decided to use treated wood. Now, you're going to see on the internet, people are going to say, don't use treated wood, it's bad for gardens, I wouldn't want those chemicals in my garden, etc., etc. Now, back in the day, they used to use arsenic as part of the treating process. Well, they don't use that anymore. They use copper. It's a copper-based treatment. So that is, as they say, is safe for garden beds. I believe them, so I want my garden beds to last forever. Thus, I'm going to use treated wood. So I use treated wood for this entire garden. Now, these metal panels here are just galvanized steel roofing panels from Home Depot. I think they're like 20 bucks a panel, something like that. Very easy to work with. You can cut them with tin snips or a grinder. I used a little bit of both depending on the situation or what part I was building with these beds. Now, building these was relatively straightforward. Under each one of these 4x8 beds, I attached hardware cloth, which is 1/2 inch metal mesh, essentially. So nothing will be able to burrow under these and come up. I specifically remember last year I was in my other garden and I was tending the carrots or something like that, and all of a sudden the ground started moving like it was like waves, and it turns out that was a mole, and he was right at the surface and burrowing through and destroying plants. And so I want to make sure that never happens again. So there's hardware cloth underneath all of these beds. Now with these 4x8s, as I built them in the garage and we moved them out here, we realized quickly how bad the elevation changes, I guess, how much it drops from corner to corner. So when we placed them, me and my buddies, this corner of each bed is on solid ground. That is sitting on solid ground, which used to be lawn. Now, the farthest corner away, over here, is supported by bricks or 2x4s to raise them up to make these beds level. Some of these beds, it doesn't look like it because the mulch is hiding it, but some of these beds, these back corners here, are every bit of 7, 8, 12 inches off the ground. So I had to reinforce wherever there were gaps. So again, I filled them with bricks or 2x4s or whatever I could to get these beds nice and level. And then I went through and then I filled them all. Now, the materials that I used to fill these beds, in my old garden, I used kind of a hugelkultur method where you put limbs and sticks and logs and sort of thing as a base, and then you build up on top of that. I noticed that they seem to settle a lot using that method, and I had to top them up, and I'm not talking a couple inches, I'm talking half the bed settled. So with these beds I decided to use a different method. I filled up half of the beds, roughly half the beds, with this exact mulch that is down here on the ground. This is called Scioto Trail, and it is from Price Farms. And now Price Farms is a organic compost facility in Delaware, or outside of Delaware, and it's one of my favorite places ever. They sell all kinds of stuff besides compost. They sell obviously mulch, they sell rock, they sell topsoil, whatever you would want, and their prices are very reasonable. So I have about 30 yards plus or minus of material in here total that I loaded 2 yards at a time on my trailer, went up there and got 2 yards of be it the Scioto Trail or the Brew, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And that in and of itself was quite the feat to get all the material in here to fill these. But I started the beds halfway with this Scioto Trail mulch because it's around $25 a cubic yard. It's light, it's easy to work with, and so I filled up the beds halfway with this Scioto Trail as kind of a base. Now the next 18 to 24 inches to the top, I filled with what is called Brew. Price Farm sells Brew compost, which is made from the poo and the bedding and all kinds of other things thrown in it, like coffee grounds and whatnot. But the poo and the bedding from animals from the Columbus Zoo. I used Brew in my other garden, and the plants just absolutely love it. Absolutely, positively love it. Price Farms lets the compost, Brew compost, sit for 2 years before they sell it. So it's pretty much ready to go. Now, I go a step above that, and I kind of make my own little mix here for the very, very top. I take 1/3 Brew, and I take 1/3 peat moss and 1/3 vermiculite, and I make my own little custom soil here for probably the top, I'd say 8 to 12 inches or so. The vermiculite peat moss helps retain the moisture a little bit better. The Brew in and of itself can dry out pretty easily. That's also why I have this mulch on top. This is just shredded animal bedding that you can get at Tractor Supply for like $8 a bale. It seems to work really, really well. But in case it does dry out, I've got irrigation, and I'm going to get to that in just a sec. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about the exterior walls. Now, these exterior walls I built in most of these are 8-foot sections. So I built the panels and then the base of the beds, the outside base of the beds, on sawhorses in the yard. And then once I got them built, then I had my wife and my kids, and they would come out and we would Amish barn raise basically and push these up into place and then secure them to the panel before them with a 1x8, which is what this is right here. And so it was literally just build panel by panel by panel. And so the one corner of these, that corner of this panel here, is on the ground. This corner is not. Very much like the beds, one side is on the level ground, and then the other side obviously had to be raised up and supported. And you can see up top there how much of a drop this panel is from that panel. And some of these drops are pretty significant, and in order to cover them, I put some rock, which you can get at Price Farms. That is the Hodgepodge XL. I really like it. It's got all kinds of colorful rocks in it once you clean it up. But again, you can see that they're significant drops here. And so that is reflected where, this corner of this panel is on the ground, that corner is raised up. Same thing down here. This panel is off the ground. And I'll probably throw some pictures in there so you can see how much drop there actually is there. And the other component to these that I really liked is the fencing. So I got this fencing from Lowe's and I sandwiched it. So you can see I stapled it to this one as I built the panel. And then once it was stapled, I put this other 2x4 on top. So there is literally no way that any animal is going to be able to get through there and rip this fence out, because it's stapled in and then it's screwed in with a 2x4 on top. So pretty secure. And then on the inside of the walls, once the wall itself was in place, I came back and I built the rest of the bed. Now, just like the inside beds, they've got a 2x6 on top here, so I can sit and I can, harvest or plant or whatever. It also will support my weight. So I was standing on these quite a bit, putting the lights and whatnot up, which I'll talk about here in a sec. The panels, after I built everything, I went through and I put the steel panels in just like the inside beds. And then I braced them as well. So this is just a brace. This is where there's a step down. And again, you can see I joined them with the 1x8 right here. But you can see the drop, it's about size of my hand between that bed and this bed. Technically the dirt underneath here is connected, but because of the drop it actually makes them individual beds. And there's some that have some really big drops, like this one right here, and you kind of see as you look up. So you got a bed here with my asparagus in it, and then significant drop, and then another bed here. And that's why they are individually numbered. This is bed number 17. It's hard to see. We'll come over here to 16 and 15. I have the planner app, and all 29 beds are in there individually in the planner app, and then that way I can pull it up. Bed number 4, for example, my wife made these on the Cricut, these numbers, which was really nice. But I could pull up bed number 4, for example, in the planner and see what I planted in there. And the planner app is really nice because it'll tell you what plants work well together, what plants don't work well together. I use kind of a hybrid square foot method, hence the lines. That's each one of those is a square foot, and so it tells you how many plants can go in each square foot as well. And one last design feature before I get into the fun stuff that I added to the garden are these arches. These are 16-foot cattle panels that everybody uses from Tractor Supply. In my old garden, I had 4, and I really like them. They're great for trellising everything. I trellised pumpkins, I trellised watermelons. It's really cool to see big watermelons and pumpkins hanging from these. You can do cucumbers, all kinds of stuff, right? So I liked them so much, I had 4 in the old garden, that I put 10 in this one. I have 4 down this row on these beds. I have 4 over here, make 8. And then there's 2 over there. I don't have on those 2 beds because of the doorway there. But 10 of these cattle panels, and they're great. I'm going to be able to grow vertically with all kinds of stuff. My daughter really likes snap peas, so we have those starting to climb up right now. And these cattle panels are relatively affordable. If you have my old garden, I put them on my trailer, which is 10 feet long, bent them up. It was kind of a pain in the butt to to haul them. So if you have a Tractor Supply credit card, which I do, one of the perks is free delivery. So I told them, hey, I wanted 10 of these things, and they delivered them to my house the next day for free as a perk with the credit card, which was really, really nice. And I didn't have to handle them other than bringing them from the driveway to here. Now, in my old garden, I used T-posts to secure these on the edge of the bed right here. But I didn't really like the way the T-posts looked, and they kind of bent a little bit. So I used this time right here. This is a 1x. It's a 1x4. And I put the panel down in there, and then I screwed that 1x in, and that really, really tightened it up. So there's no use for the ugly T-panels, or T-posts rather, that come up. And they kind of I just don't like the way they look. So I came up with a new way to mount these, and it has worked out really well. Now on these back walls here, I just used your traditional staples. But on the inner beds, that little 1x right there, and then I painted it blue. Speaking of the blue, I didn't talk about that. So this blue is the same color as my house. Originally, when I started building these beds, and you've probably seen in some of the photos that I've inserted here, that I stained them orange, like an orangish reddish color. And I put them out here, and I was looking at it. I didn't like it. My wife didn't like it. So I said, you know what? What if we paint everything the color of the house, this dark blue? Now, I built a chicken coop last year, and you're probably not going to be able to see it on camera, but it is, let's see if I can zoom in on it. It's back there. And it is white and blue just like the house. So I figured if the chicken coop is white and blue, let's do the same color scheme with the garden. And I really like it. I can't say that I've ever seen another blue garden out there. So it worked out really well. It was a pain in the ass to have to come through and repaint these, because I stained them without the metal panels in there. So I had to come back as they were in place and paint them, which wasn't fun. But I think the ultimate, the way that it came out, looks really, really good. Now let's talk about some fun stuff that I added to this garden, some custom touches, if you will. This is my plumbing manifold. So I trenched plumbing all over my yard probably 3 or 4 years ago. And so there's at the front of the garden, up by the pond, there's a spigot up there that I trenched. So I tapped into that line, and I ran a line all the way back here. And here I have a 12 valve manifold. Now there are 12 zones. Each of the 8 beds has their own spigot. You can kind of see one right there. And then there are 4 outer zones, because you can't turn the water on all of these beds at once, because you'll lose water pressure. Now I haven't hooked up the irrigation system yet. That's all controlled by the cloud. It's a smart irrigation system. I don't even know if I'm going to need it, which is why I haven't hooked it up, but I have the spigots ran just in case. So you have your 8 inner zones, and then you have 4 outer zones. So you have each quarter of the exterior beds are divided into a zone. You can see the 2 spigots there. And then I also have a couple on the inside. That one is useful for washing your hands after planting. There's another one that I have over by the door that I have a hose on. I put one back here. I took a hose up. I didn't think I would ever use it, but I just used it yesterday. I hooked the hose up. When I put these rocks down, they were really muddy. Those are the last addition that I did to the garden, and so I hooked the hose up back here, and I hosed those off so you can kind of, still a little muddy, but you can see the color a little bit better. But anyway, this manifold system, there's a shutoff valve I put for each zone. And this actually, I have a similar manifold in my old garden, and I actually had to use it. I had the brass on one of the spigots and one of the beds cracked, and it was spraying water everywhere. So rather than shut off water to the entire bed, you just come over and you shut that zone off, and then I can fix it whenever I get around to it. And that way the rest of your beds still have water. So that's a lot of money in valves, but it was fun to build. And I also do a giant Christmas light show with my neighbors. It's a whole another story. But this garden is going to have Christmas lights on it, so I left a little space for my controllers because they're all digitally controlled. And then as far as security system, I know I mentioned that earlier, I have, one of the issues that I ran into that I didn't foresee was raccoons climbing the fence and getting in. And they made a mess of my old garden, climbing the fence. They would get into tomatoes, and whatever they could scavenge, they would, and steal, basically. So in my other garden, to try to deter them, and it worked, I ran an electric fence. That electric fence, I just had a temporary yellow nylon wire around the old garden, and it looked ugly, served its purpose. This one, inside this box, is 7,000 watts of juice that will shock the living crap out of anything that attempts to climb and then go over. There is a wire that I ran, it's hard to see, which is on purpose, on top of the garden. It goes the entire perimeter. So the idea is if something tries to climb up, they try to go over, a squirrel, a raccoon, whatever it may be, they're going to get zapped, and they won't want to ever do it again. And then again, underneath the beds out here, I have hardware cloth, and on top of that, I also put, scrap metal pieces that I had, scrap pieces of wood. So for them to try to go under, they got to get past the rocks, then they'll get into the hardware cloth, and if they somehow get past that, then they've got to get to all the crap that I threw on top of it, bricks, all kinds of stuff. So I tried to make this garden as Fort Knox as humanly possible, and between the zapper there and the measures that I took underneath the beds, the perimeter beds and the inside beds, hopefully that will work and nothing gets into it. To get power to the zapper, by the way, the zapper is not continuous, the electric fence is not continuous, it pulsates, so it gives them a chance for the animal to escape. For those who are like, oh, that's cruel, no, it's a quick zap, I think every other second or maybe every second, and it gives them a chance to retreat. I and my son both intentionally zapped ourselves to make sure that, it wasn't lethal, I suppose, but it's fine, so calm down. To get power though, they're originally, this is my garden, or a frog pond by my gardens. This is next spring's project. I'm going to pull all this out and redo this, make it look really nice. But many moons ago, I ran power right there to be able to run that pump for the waterfall for the fountain. So I took that post out that I had the power on, and I moved it to here. So I have exterior outlets on the garden, and those are to run the fountain and then whatever else I put out here, Christmas lights, what have you. Now in the inside, I ran 2 power outlets. I have this one here, and this one currently is controlling 2 things. It's controlling the lights, which I'll talk about in a second, and it's also controlling my sound system. I have a really nice, kind of hard to see, but the second speaker is down there. I put a sound system in here so I can jam out. It's got an external waterproof amplifier, so I can jam out while I'm working out in the garden. And it's actually probably my favorite feature of this garden. It's Bluetooth, so I can just pull my phone out and start playing some tunes. I don't want YouTube to get mad at me, so I'm not going to do that right now on camera. But down here is my second outlet, and that's the one that is controlling the electric fence. I put 4 outlets here on both of them, just future expansion, Christmas lights, whatever I may have. Now both the zapper and the lights above, which I'm going to talk about, are controlled by Alexa and Google. So in the house out here, I can turn them on, I can set them on a schedule. Like for example, the zapper, I don't run during the day because I don't seem to have an animal problem out here during the day. It's just at night when the raccoons decide to come out and get in here. And then, with the lights, I can just say, hey, Google, turn on garden lights, and on they go. And I don't leave these on all the time. I usually only turn them on when I'm out here or if we have company, because they look really, really pretty at night. I'll insert a picture so you can see what that glow looks like. I ran these on, I think it's 400 feet of lighting, patio lights I got off of Amazon. And I ran these on steel cables that are attached to the walls here. I kind of ran an X pattern from corner to corner, and those steel cables serve 2 purposes. 1, they're holding up the lights, and 2, they actually allowed me to shore up the walls. Some of the walls were leaning, they weren't quite level, and I mean, I'm talking minuscule amounts, but I'm a perfectionist, so I attached the steel cables and I kind of tightened them up, and it shored up and leveled up the walls, but it also allowed me somewhere to mount the lights. And again, probably my second favorite addition. The speakers, my favorite thing I put in here. The lights are probably my second favorite. And finally, the plants. So everything that is in the inside beds, these 8 inner beds, I either started in my basement and garage this winter. In fact, most of it was starts, onions, broccoli, Swiss chard. Some of the things in here anything that I didn't start myself is direct sown, like the peas. I think there's some cucumbers in this one here. The outer beds, those are plants that I purchased from the local garden center. Now, if you're in Central Ohio, the 2 places that you should be getting things from for your garden. One, Price Farms. Price Farms has Brew, which I don't think I mentioned the price, but it's around mid-30s dollar range for the Brew. Fantastic stuff. If you don't need a cubic yards, 20 cubic yards like I put in here, you can buy it bagged there as well. So again, check out Price Farms. The second place that you should be getting your plants from, if you didn't start them yourself, is Straders. Now, Straders sells flats of starts of pretty much anything you can imagine. So kale, asparagus, peppers, obviously the normal stuff, peppers, but you can get some exotic stuff too. 3 plants for $1.99. A whole flat of plants is $20. And, I went out here, I planted all kinds of stuff. I got cabbage, and I've got celery starts that they had, even though I had started some of my own, but I needed to fill these beds with plants. And so you really cannot beat $1.99 for 3 plants. So even if I lose some, like I think I've got a few down there that don't look so great, it's not the end of the world. I mean, $1.99 for 3 plants, not a big deal. Straders too has locations all over Central Ohio. I live near Shawnee Hills, which is over by the Columbus Zoo, and there's one up here, and I like that one, but it's smaller. So the one that I recommend, the one that I usually go to, is the one off of Dublin Road by Hayden. Down in Columbus. It's massive. It's got 2 giant warehouses. I'm sorry, not Dublin Road, Riverside Drive. Correct myself there. Riverside and Hayden Road. And it's huge, absolutely huge. The selection is insane. The plant quality is always top notch, and the people there are really nice. No, Straders didn't sponsor this, nor did Price Farms, but those are 2 of my favorite places to go to. So if you live in Central Ohio, check them out. I know that there's other really cool places, other nurseries and stuff, but you just can't beat the price of Straders at $1.99 for 3 plants. So yeah, guys, that was a detailed tour of the garden and a breakdown of how I did stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or question down below, and I'll do my best to answer. And I'll see you guys in the next one.